And then, friends, we look ahead to something. In 1 Peter, to me, it is just an inexhaustible goldmine of rich nuggets. And Peter reminds us that we have been born again into a living hope and into an inheritance that will never perish, spoil, or fade. And how precious, friends, a privilege is that. Because without this hope inside you, how can you go into the furnace of a trial without a living hope? We all need something to get us through life. And friends, our living hope is our inheritance that we will receive in heaven. Revelations 21 says, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away." 1 Corinthians 15, "In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed." You see, friends, God is not preparing a theoretical heaven, and our resurrection will be our restoration to a pure, unfading, unspoiled body and life. Suffering and grief will be swallowed up in victory, gone forever. Friends, if it took God 6 days to make what we have and see, 2,000 years ago, Jesus said, "I go to prepare a place for you." What must our inheritance in heaven be like? And yet, if you don't have this hope within you, it simply won't happen. Do you see your inheritance in terms of gold and silver today, or possibly in property? Revelations 21 says this about heaven. "The great street of the city was of pure gold." You see, friends, that's what God thinks of gold. It's fit for walking on, isn't it? Friends, don't walk away from God's offer of salvation today. And lastly, as we finish, there's looking into something. Verse 12 is a fascinating little verse. "Even angels long to look into these things," it says. Now, the Greek word for the angels longing here is epithemia, which is derived from the word meaning lust. But it means that the angels longingly, continually, obsessively look into the gospel with awe and with wonderment. They just cannot take it in. Now, angels, of course, are created beings that have been with God right from the beginning. But the angels want to look into this, to see what it is all about. They just cannot believe what God has done for us. And though they sing in heaven, we're told that they do, there'll come a time when silently they will listen to you and me singing Amazing Grace around the throne. Why? Well, you know the answer to that from that hymn, don't you? Because angels never knew the joy that our salvation brings. Now, Hebrews 12:2 says this, "Looking on to Jesus, the author, the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." How was it then that Jesus got through the ordeal of the cross? Well, friends, Jesus had a living hope of his own as well. What then was Christ's living hope? What put him through it all in the first place? What could he possibly have been looking for that he didn't already have in heaven? Well, Isaiah 53, that great Old Testament passage about Jesus, says this in verse 11. It says, "He shall see the labour of his soul and be satisfied." Friends, what could make ultimate suffering worth it? Look with me at the rest of that verse. Verse 11, "By his knowledge, my righteous servant shall justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities." My friends, I hope that this amazes you. because you and I as believers are Christ's living hope. I am Christ's living hope, and if you are saved, then you are the same. We are the only things that Jesus didn't have in heaven, and he had to come to this earth, and he had to plunge himself into that fiery furnace, taking our sin upon himself so that you and I would not perish, but be unspoilt, would be unfading, made perfect, fully restored, forever resurrected and safe in his arms, saved for all eternity. And if you and I are his living hope, it should make us want to live holy lives. 1 Peter 1:15 says, "But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all that you do." Hebrews 12:28 says, "Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom which cannot be shaken, let us have grace by which we may serve God acceptably with reverence and godly fear, for our God is a consuming fire." Friends, may we all seek to live holy and reverent lives, refined in the fire of God's wonderfully full and freely available redemption. How good is the God that we adore, our faithful, unchangeable friend. To God be the glory. Amen.